I'm Mel. I'm one of the academic developers at the University of East London. And I'm very pleased to have this webinar today. And I will while I do the clicking, accepting people, I let my colleague Jamie do the proper introduction so that we can get started.
Welcome everybody. Very good afternoon here from sunny London and wherever you are. I hope you're having a good day. My name's Jamie Meacham. I work with Mel in the University of East London. My job title is the Centre for Augmented and Virtual Reality Centre Manager. So I've had the great pleasure to have worked with Dr. Renah Wolzinger for the past couple of years while we've rolled out a new AR/VR platform in our university called Eon XR. Now, Dr. Wolzinger is here to talk about that a little bit and much more with extensive experience in academia, various aspects of higher education, and a CV as long as your arm that we haven't got time to go through. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Renah Wolzinger.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Melissa, and thanks, Jamie. And it's wonderful to work with you, Jamie, all these years. And it's been, you're definitely a bright spot on the whole universe. So thank you very much. So welcome, everybody. I am Dr. Renah Wolzinger. We do have, I just want to ask everybody to mute or not talk while we're doing this presentation so that it'll be easier to hear what we're saying. But definitely we'll be chatting and answering questions during the presentation. So don't worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and share hopefully the right window in the new version of Microsoft. Okay, there we go. So welcome. So you see my screen. I have a couple of different roles. I've been a digital media professor for many years, over 20 years. My background is in bioengineering, and there's me at Comic-Con and my avatar that I use in a lot of different environments in the metaverse. I am also a musician. These skills I put on here intentionally because the way things are changing now with AI, these now all of a sudden became important to be able to do those, including traveling, understanding the world, philosophy is important, literature, all kinds of things that I've studied. I'm also a sports person and a softball player. And I've been working with Eon Reality for the past 3 years, implementing XR, which is augmented reality and virtual reality into education, and working with educators now as a group of administrators and professors that are taking all of these things and having kind of a way to understand them and use them and access them in a way that makes sense for building education and for also having events for students. So, for example, this summer, I'll be helping high school and university students do projects and solve problems using these technologies I'm going to show you today. So feel free to ask questions or anything you want during the time the chat's being moderated, and I'm happy to stop and answer questions along the way. So I always like to start with the vision, and I'm a super sci-fi nut, which if you got on here early, you might heard a little bit about that. But I grew up kind of watching Star Trek, Star Wars, 2001 Space Odyssey, Terminator, those types of things. And I think a lot of those things these things have been envisioned by early people are as early as even like the 20s, 30s, 40s came into film. And now we're seeing a lot of these things happen. And why I start with this is because I think the way that we're training our students versus the way that students are going to be working are now getting completely divergent. So as you'll see what I'm going to talk about today when we get to the end, I'm going to explain what I think the new way that students are going to be kind of providing solutions and working, what that might look like. So just to start with some core values, one of the reasons why I'm in a consultancy group is because we want to have core values of educators. And so making everything that we use accessible, learning-centered, inclusive, ethical, equitable. And so those are things that are really important to us. So we're discovering all of the ways to make those things happen. And we work with companies, and I'll talk about one today. Actually, it's based in the UK called ThingLink that also follows these same core values. So AI is like, we have this world where I wake up every day. I spend about at least an hour minimum to start the day just reading what happened the day before. So uh, there's so much being created, and that's because we're using the power of language to program, and just by talking. And in addition, not just English, but in all languages now, the computer can understand what you're saying and develop the code to program new things. And so this is happening at a faster pace than almost anybody can keep up with. So, and if you're not doing that full-time research, there's almost no way to keep up with it. So I'm here to kind of help with that, parsing that out, doing the research, and providing continuous updates to that. So these are some of the core things that just are changing with AI in education and instructional design. People now can really expect personalization instead of memorizing the same things. That's obvious. Content creation is a big change. So as a digital media professor, it's always been a side thing to kind of like have digital media like, okay, well, only some people need that. Now it's like, because we can use the power of words, everybody became a content creator, everybody became a programmer. And the president of NVIDIA went on, I think 2 weeks ago, and said exactly those words. And that's a very powerful statement. I mean, I've never been able to do things that I can do today. I can tell you, and I'll show you some of those. Being able to adapt, and being able to use analytics. I'll show you today how how we can do analytics faster than ever before. And then accessibility. All of the things I'm going to show you can be, it really helps students that have different impairments, different things that they couldn't experience. And now we can do it with the use of some of these tools. So I'm going to dive right in. The way that I kind of parse out my research is looking at, I've looked at so many things, and I decided to parse it out in terms of categories. So the first simplest category is kind of what is AI and how do you use it? But and that's what some of the stuff I have with Eduvators, which, by the way, if you join eduvators.org, I'm going to provide the first 20 lessons free and all about AI, the history of 2D, 3D, 360, and all these things I'm going to talk about. And then if you become a member, then we're going to have access to pro apps like ChatGPT 4 and so forth. But let me just start about these categories. So the first thing I discovered in this process, which started about 1.5 years ago for me with AI and 20 years ago as a digital media professor, is what are the things, where are people learning this? And I found out it's different than as a professor, where I'm getting books and research, and then later on the internet, library. It's not happening there. It's happening on Discord, which is it's kind of it's not a social media, but a place where you put a server and you put information on. So that's where a lot of learning is taking place. And YouTube, and they both in all the YouTubes that I watch, they mention the Discord channel. So if you're not a Discord teacher or Discord user, it's something that I'll show you how to get on, and if you're interested. There's the three things in 2D that came into being kind of first are DALL-E 3, because that's part of ChatGPT OpenAI, and that's an integrated app that makes pictures in that platform. Adobe Firefly, which is probably the easiest to use because Adobe's been in this business the whole time, and it kind of guides you through like what's the aspect ratio? Do you want a poster, or do you want like a real thing, or do you want like a painting? So it gives you pick those things, and then you can generate art. Midjourney, that relies on understanding prompt engineering. So that's one that I've spent the most time on because I wanted to learn what are the codes and commands for the prompts. And then I do what's called prompt battles on the weekends to put myself up against people that are better than me to learn about, like, do something in the style of Van Gogh in this aspect ratio or whatever. So those are prompts with different kinds of commands that I've learned. Here's three ones that I've created in different apps. You could see the top right one is from Adobe Firefly. There's a little flag there on the bottom left. The other two are from Discord, and you can create a lot of things. But one of the things that I teach about in that is you still need to understand something about art. So in my in my lessons in Eduvators, I go over like what's the color wheel, what are aspect ratios, what's the grid, what's perspective. So just the basics so that when you are prompting, you understand a little bit about what you're generating. The better you understand the basics, the better you can generate art with the help of AI. And then you might be wondering, is this bad for artists? This is used in a different way. So in industry, we're using this in marketing every day. I'm using it in my lesson generation. So I can say, hey, this is what X looks like and Y looks like. Instead of, I used to pull stuff off of Google. Now I make my own art using AI. So I think that's better than just taking stuff off of Google for me. So in industry, it's used all day, every day. It doesn't mean that artists aren't creating art. It means that people who were probably taking stuff off of Google, like a lot of companies, or something like that, now will have their own kind of brand, but AI will help generate things faster, all their blogs, social media, and so forth. So 3D is something that's been kind of a slow thing in both education and industry because it's been so hard. Now it's so much easier. So there's giant libraries that Epic Games is now going to consolidate in a place called Fab, F-A-B. And that's where Sketchfab is going to be putting all of their content. There's some others I put there. ThingLink, I misspelled it. It should be T-H-I-N-G. ThingLink is something that really surprised me more than anything else. I'll show an example of that, but it's based in the UK, and they have typically been a 2D app that you create content on, and it's changed to 3D. So I'll show you that in a little bit. So let's talk about Discord for a minute. Discord, this looks kind of messy, but on the left side, this is my Discord from a little while ago, but now I have like 25 different companies, and I can just click on the one I want to learn. And then this one is clicked on Midjourney, and then you can see creating panels of art, and then I can upscale them or make variations. But in each channel, it talks about what are the prompts. There's kind of like display, Q&A, there's free classes, latest releases. And so for every one of these things that I learn about, I'm on their Discord and their YouTube, and that's where the learning, the sharing, the creation, a lot of this is happening. It's not happening on email. It's not happening on websites. So just be aware, this is where this sharing is going on. So this is where I realized the learning is going on. I'm gonna stop for a minute and see if there's any questions. Are we okay, Jamie?
Yes, no questions so far.
Okay, super. Okay, so I'll start with this is the next area. So some use cases. So in Sketchfab, which is a library of assets in 3D, you can go in there and there's stuff that you can pay for. There's stuff that are free. There's stuff you can download. There's stuff you can't download. So different variations, and they have icons for that. So here's just a little one that I downloaded just to show you an example, but little animated space. You can change the direction, zoom in, zoom out. I mean, so the reason why this is so important is before in education to share a concept like this, I mean, to create this, you need a 3D artist, you know, to do this in an application like Blender or Maya or Lightwave. Now it's been done, they're up there, they're available, and you can download things for education. And you'll notice people are putting more things up for education, and there's different applications like for anatomy and physiology, for history, for space exploration, museums, all those that they're putting up these assets, and us as teachers can use them, and students can learn in a different way. So very easy to use. These assets, what is amazing about them is they can be brought into applications like Eon Reality or like ThingLink, where you can go in there for free, or like Eon has a free version and a paid version that institutions get, or as an individual, you can check out the free version. ThingLink as well. We can bring in these 2D or 3D things and add content to them. So as teachers, we can have students learn about an area, and it can be animated and in 3D. And it's becoming very easy to use. Oops. Good. So I mentioned a couple other ones there. Momentum 360 is a place where you can take a 360 image. So I make those myself in a in a thing called Blockade Labs, I'll show you, or take pictures on a 3D camera. And then you can bring them into these applications to get a 360. So for example, if you want to talk about a lab, the typical example I use is a hospital or a medical clinic where students are learning about different pieces of machinery, and you can learn about them in a 360 space and get information on them. So I'll show you in Viverse. I'll be showing you that a little bit later. So Blockade Labs, I just have a free account, and I did a lecture last week at a university called Cal State Fullerton here in California. So I just asked it to make a 360 of Cal State Fullerton. So it's kind of funny because it added a pool onto it that's not there, but other than that, it's pretty similar to that university. And I can take this now and I can use this or even show the rooms inside this 360, and I can use that in these applications. So that's huge. I can take any lab, any buildings, different countries, anything that you want, put it in there and add content to it. So that's Blockade Labs, and that's one that I use kind of every day. The other new thing about this technology is it lets, if you do a paid version of it, which I don't have, but if you do, you can export not just a 360 image, but you can export a 3D model. So it becomes a mesh where you can put other objects inside of it. That's an incredible kind of breakthrough for a lot of uses. Get to that. There we go. The next thing I want to talk about is avatars. Now, why are these important? They may or may not be important, to be honest. For games like going in the metaverse and walking around and learning, I use one called Viverse and some other ones. They're important. A lot of companies just use chatbots, so they may or may not have an avatar kind of there. So it just depends. Avatars, the way I think they're important is to show you how to do something. So if you're going to be like picking something up or performing a procedure, I've trained a lot of doctors on doing like procedures like, so you're picking up a syringe, you're calling an ambulance or whatever you're doing, so they could be in that scene doing that with you. Or maybe they're not important and you're just chatting and getting information. But this is the one that I use most of the time to create avatars. Ready Player Me. It's free and it hooks up to all the other apps. So if you're going to create your own avatar, you can hop in there and check it out. And there's me doing it, picking different, you can pick different hair, skin, eyes, like all of it. You can have headdress or a hat on different outfits. So, and then you can even go out and make your own and then add it in there. So just, it has a lot of flexibility. So I just did stuff that was in there, and you can make an avatar. And then once you do that, you can download that and use it in any of these other applications. So that's something just to be aware of. So while that's going through, and I've made myself a ton of these to use in different types of things. So that's a little bit about avatars. And then you can go and change these outfits in other more complicated applications that you would need some kind of expertise in environments. And so I mentioned the three that I use most of the time: Blender, Unity, and Unreal Engine. So Blender, let's say I want to have two people doing CPR and like somebody else, like that's a paramedic. I can create all of those animations in Blender. That's a lot more complicated because that's like, now you need to know how to use those, and they're not kind of self-explanatory. Unity and Unreal Engine are building worlds and games. And so using those to like take that Blockade Lab environment and bring it into Unity or Unreal Engine and add scenes to it. So the reason I mention those is until now, games have been very kind of exclusive, how to make them and who can make them. And now you can import things into these. You can make things with AI with a prompt, importing them into Unity or Unreal Engine, adding avatars, and then so making like an escape room for like an educational purpose or a museum or whatever. It's becoming very easy for the common user to do those things. And that's never, ever been the case before. So let's hop into generative AI. I put an image there that I made in Midjourney. It's still my favorite application for image creation. These are some of the things that I think are the use cases for these applications. Administrative assistant, that's been a huge one, both in as a professor and in industry, just doing things like taking notes, creating documents, public PR releases, social media content. So it's keeping your calendar, checking your emails, all of those things are things that we've done a certain way sitting in front of the computer. And then if you can imagine if you're using it, it should allow you to have less time in front of the computer because it's creating that for you. You just have a summary and you're saving it. Content creation, that's what I've been talking about now. And now it's democratized. So anybody can make content. Anybody can do things that they haven't perceived before, make a 3D model and print it out. It's becoming commonplace. Tutoring. So you've seen tutoring apps. Those are real popular with students. You can make a tutor for your subjects special, but to be honest, the language learning models have progressed so far already that if students ask questions about your subject, they're probably going to get pretty good answers without you training anything now. Languages, this has changed in the last month to now. Language translation up till now has been kind of taking English and then kind of making it, it's not really translating it properly for different languages, and it just doesn't translate properly. But it's changed now to where when you go into another language, the grammar and the context and everything else is correct. So so you'll see a lot of companies rolling out language translation models as companies, but it's now what that does is it democratizes AI into all countries. So that's a huge change. Collaboration. So I'm doing a lot of things with students that are project-based learning now, and they have to take many apps and string them together to find the solution. So that's a new skill in teaching is flow charting apps to make the solution. And we've done that as professors the whole time, but now these apps are new. So it's important for us to understand what the tool sets are that they can use for that. Research and development, that's kind of what I do all day. Accessibility, creativity, and lifelong learning. So this does require someone who's using AI to be actively engaged, like daily or weekly. It's hard to keep up at the moment. So AI is everywhere. I put the things I use. These are OpenAI. I use that every day, a lot of the day. Now I'm making things called GPTs. So most of you have probably heard of those, but what are they? It's an easy way to make little applications. And if you go to if you're a GPT-4 subscriber and you type my name, you'll see a bunch of them. So I have one that is trending called Heroine Creator. So it creates comic book pages with female heroes and their supercars. And I just thought that's actually the first one I ever made because that's what I wanted to see for myself. And it ended up being a popular one on the GPT store. But it's a massive place for free little applications to do almost anything in there. And that's why I subscribe to that. I'm not saying, I'm not advocating for anything to subscribe to, but just so you know it's there. There's also for the pro kind of users, playgrounds and assistants and APIs. So you can go in there and you can program your own thing and put it in an application using an API, which is a way for your application to talk to another application. So, but most of the consumers are using GPTs, which you just type out stuff, type it out and say what you want it to do. And it says, okay. And then it asks you a bunch of questions and then you try it. And if it doesn't work right, you add more information. So I made one, for example, on a subject I teach on audio engineering. So it goes over microphones, frequency responses, things like that. And very useful. I uploaded some manuals into it and there you go. So it programmed it all in the Python in the background and did everything I needed it to do. And now people can use it. Another way I use, this is another GPT, Scholar GPT. So I can I've been using Google for this, Google search and other libraries, but I can just say, hey, give me the latest stuff on AI from in the last year, and it'll give me some peer-reviewed research with all of the the links to get to everything. So just some other things. The newest one that came out, maybe it was 3 weeks ago now, is in OpenAI is Sora. So now we're going to be able to make like little movies as well with just, again, prompting. So here's another one that I made. This is in, oh yeah, this is why I put this in. So these things are all different. And ChatGPT is good at language and making little applications and big applications and integrating. Google Gemini is different. It gives shorter answers, but it also does data mining. And so one of the things I do as a professor is I have to understand kind of the skills that are needed, the job outlook, salaries, all that, projecting things, and so that I can write career and technical education curriculum that is relevant. And so I tried all these and I realized very early that Google had done something different with data. So in the United States, we have a place called ONET. And so I said, hey, using ONET, find out about jobs, skills, and certifications for whatever field. So I did one here for I think I did for computer science or something, and it just gives it to you in a few seconds. So that's huge to know. If you try to do that in ChatGPT, it just says, I can't do that. I don't do that. But in Gemini, which is Google's version, they can go into data sets and they can be in Excel format or Microsoft Access, whatever format, and then find the answers and then send it to you. So I asked it to do it in a column format and it sends that out. That's huge for academic research or research in general to understand that Gemini can do that kind of thing. There's a couple other ones, Perplexity and Copilot, and they all do a little bit different things. I use them all for different purposes. So going through here, I think so these are all of the skills and certifications required in computer science and AI that I pulled out of the ONET database in a few seconds. And then it gives me the references to where I pulled it from, to where it pulled everything from. So that's really nice at the end, because this is academic research. So I need these citations. Any questions so far? Okay.
There's
So-
nothing in the chat.
Okay, awesome. So one of the things I realize now is, all of these things are just tools that we're going to use to do things kind of faster and in a different way. So in the workplace, I've heard a lot of people say, well, AI is just for cheating on essays, but in the workplace, it's about actually keeping your job or keeping your company afloat. So we use AI in every aspect of the workplace. So in marketing, doing those press releases and social media posts, LinkedIn posts, analyzing those, analyzing where to spend money on advertising for those or boosting things, data analytics, how customers are using your product, what are the pros and cons and things you should add to your workflow and the timing of that. Of course, technology. So now it's not like, let's hire 100 new computer programmers, but let's have everybody also use AI to do that faster and more efficiently. And that's happening very quickly. In health, that's one of the biggest things is home wearables, so that data can come from kind of like my Apple Watch, for example, like sending a whole blood pressure profile to your doctor, and then they can analyze like what should we be doing, so you don't have like one point of time healthcare, but you have continuous healthcare, which is much better. So all these areas, I know in sales, it's a huge change having kind of the way that you use CRMs and like Salesforce or something like that, and get lead generation. That's completely changed with AI and data mining, for example. Customer service, that's an area that I work in, and that's changing really fast, where your first level of customer service might be an AI avatar and asking you things, or a chatbot that's really run by AI. And then when it gets to the point where they can't help you, then you might get to a person. But I don't think that's a good thing, but that's what's happening out there. So that's, so these are things that are happening. So if you're going to be in the workforce, you're expected to understand how to make your job more efficient with these tools. It's as simple as that. So that's why in education, I think it's our responsibility to have some understanding to prepare people for that, because they're going to be interviewing, they're going to be asked to do use cases in the interview. And if they can't get through that, it's going to be harder to get employed for a lot of jobs. So what I've been doing is trying to think of, so I'm now working with both a lot of faculty and students, and like this week on Friday, I have a whole bunch of students that are secondary and university students that are going to be doing projects together. So I'm thinking, you know, I want them to be able to use all of these tools to come up with solutions together in a short time, like an hour. So I'm been coming up with prompts, and there's been a lot of research on this, but so that the students can go and use the different applications and then come up with their own solutions. And so one of the ones I learned doing prompt battles is about making art in the style of an artist. So the students might have favorite artists that they like. So in the prompt battles I've done is like make a landscape of X country in the style of whatever artist. So I'm going to have students do that. And so this brings you into more like learning about art, learning about artist styles, and what happens when you create a certain scene with that artist style. So it's a different way to learn art, and I find it super fascinating and engaging. Making an avatar, I'm going to have them make avatars and then go into the metaverse in probably an application. If I have time, I'll show you, called Viverse, and go in there and examine rooms, talk together, and learn about things together. Another one is just making the world a better place. I love prompts like that. So I have some kind of initial ideas that are kind of popular, like electric charging infrastructure. That's a big problem here in California. Like, how do you solve that? How do you do the research and see if they can go data mine and figure that out, and then make a city that would be planned properly? So actually do planning and all of the graphics going with that. So I'll be showing them how to use Gemini, Sketchfab, Blockade Labs, making a world for that based on real data. Short story. Now, this is one where I've talked with several professors about, and we think it'd be fun to do, make a short story with amazing creatures and then they have to, they have to do a lot of work in a short amount of time. So like make a storyboard, make the characters, explain their backstory. And so we're trying to see with a limited amount of time if they can create something like that, so they get an understanding of the power that they have to do this kind of thing. And this is also, I think, going to generate a lot of new content out there, like probably YouTube's with short animations that people come up with that they have now. We can all be animators, so we can all have the power to tell more stories. And so I think that's a field that's just going to change pretty quick. And I just put this quote in there that I saw. Technology is just a tool. In terms of getting kids working together and motivating them, the teacher is the most important, which is, why I'm here is I think our job is to help them to be creative, fast, fit into what's going on, understand it, and us as teachers, trying to keep up. So, so that's what I wanted to talk about as far as slides. I do have a lot of applications, but I'm to show you live, but I'm going to stop sharing and just see if we can answer some questions.
Lovely. Thank you, Renah.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the audience? You can either unmute your mic or type away.
Hello, can I ask a question now, if you can hear me? Thank you for the presentation. That's very nice. Actually, you have given us a great collection of the first layer of AI. I mean, the role agnostic layer, as we know, using general applications available in the market, and just produce an image or content to use in our work as a student or staff. My question is, based on your expertise in this area, would you have any suggestions for UL about how to turn this, how to progress into the second layer of practitioner layer in the organization, or maybe the innovation layer, if there is a direct bridge between this, because yeah, we are using all these external applications in our daily practice, but this is not the ideal case. So we should also make a progress into the AI application. So I would like to hear your suggestions if you have any for us. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I am working with the team. I'm a mentor. I'm an XR mentor at UCSD. That's my alma mater for bioengineering. And I kind of like their model. They have students kind of creating ideas for new businesses. So my students are creating some new medical technologies, and AI and XR is a big part of the visualization. And so I'm guiding them on a lot of things, like how they should be doing their business plan, their finances, their roadmap. And they're using AI for a lot of it. They only have 3 months till we present with everybody. And so, using it for practical, again, problem solving, and using a lot of these for the data visualization, business applications, writing, all of the various things. So I think the way to use it is like have a problem to solve. So instead of just like I'm going to make an image or whatever. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of what I'm doing in reality right now with UCSD and their students.
Okay, thank you. Then we just need to follow up with you in the next series of these webinars.
The best way to learn how to use these tools. So that's what I'm doing now. And I realize there's so many, and they all work a little bit differently. So the first thing to do is just a little bit self-commercial, because I'm offering it for free, is if you give me your email, or just go on eduvators.org and put your email in there, you'll be seeing how to use them free. So I created a grid with all the latest tools in their category, like it could be hardware, 2D, 3D, 360, and then it goes over like what all that's about and all the tools and how they work. And then, so that's an easy way to do it, because it categorizes them, and then it gives you the context and how to use them in education, because otherwise it's kind of the Wild West and it's just too much to do. So unless you're me sitting here, 12 hours a day learning it, it's very hard to keep up. So, and that's why I do those other things too, like work with students and teach students, because then I'm learning from them as well. So I think that's an important part of my research, is actually working on the ground with people. IPs and copyrights. Let me address that one. So a lot of this is not copyrightable. If I make something in Midjourney, then other people can use it. So if you want stuff that's proprietary, which we do at Eon Reality, for example, we have our own AWS that we pay for. We put our GPT our avatars and the playground and assistants and all the stuff you see in the software is in there. And like if I put a guide in there, it stays in there. It's proprietary. And that's why in that software, each client has their own library, because it's their own AWS secure area and other people can't see it. And that's why, like in that instance, you can't copy a lesson from one library to the other. They're actually really separate. If another college says, I need to see this person's lesson, I'd have to get a programmer to like take that lesson and move it, which there's a protocol for that, but it's unmovable otherwise. So I think that and I'm someone who holds over 100 registrations for music and film and all that. So I believe in copyrights. I mean, they've been a big part of my career, but I also think for a lot of my work, I can do more work with stuff that I won't copyright, but then like if I write music, I can copyright it here for a movie, but I can get ideas about a soundtrack and stuff using AI to help me, which in a current project that I'm doing a soundtrack based on a director that did a lot of movies in the 70s. It's nice to get ideas, and then I'm going to write from there. So then that's just getting idea from a different place. I'm getting it with AI. Maybe before I was getting it from other things, right? Which I still do, old recordings and so forth. So that's the way I look at that. So it's I'm okay with it, I guess you could say. It's been a big, what I don't what I do think is like at Eduvators, we're very careful on making sure we do cite every source of everything that we do. I don't know in the Wild West out there if people are really doing that in general in companies, and so that's something that that should be a policy. But how can we prevent students from relying too much on AI? I don't think we can. I'm going to be honest. I think they're going to use these tools. I know from other parents of university students that they've already figured out how to do their homework and then go through 2 other apps that you cannot get any other app to distinguish that it had any AI influence. What I would like better is what they're doing with it's like the most prestigious writing contest is you have to divulge whether AI helped you or not. And they do divulge it, but it still counts as being a submission. So I think that's maybe a better approach to prevent people from using AI. Is I think it's humanly impossible. Why? Because you sit down and you're going to write something and then you check it against the AI and it's better. And you're like, human nature is like, I'm going to use the second one. And so, or you draw something and it does something better. So you're just saying, don't do your human nature. And I just think it might seem like you can stop that, but I don't think you can stop that. Yes, so I still have my HP 11C calculator here. As an example, I was not allowed to use it during my engineering exams, and just like we still block YouTube and everything at high schools and all that, I think and we weren't allowed to use computers either, unless we were in programming class. So I think it's just another tool that we have to get used to doing and used to using those, but make it hard, right? When I say hard, like for my students, I'm going to be like, okay, before I'd be like, make a plot of microphones for a drum set. Now I'd be like, okay, do that, explain all the microphones, give me a grid, give me options, give me some recordings. Like I'm going to make my assignments be more intense because they can get information faster. So there's no reason why they need to be like my old assignments drawing. They could be drawing on a piece of paper and giving me a couple pieces of information. I want a lot more information now. So my assignments and assessments have become much more complex. And then also for me as a professor, I have people presenting live in front of the class to make sure that they're understanding what they're learning. Because they're still learning, but they're using different tools to do that with. So if I'm just having them do writing assignments or answering discussions or whatever, discussions, they're probably using AI. So that's kind of like, I can't tell. So it brings back the, even if they're online, I want to hear their voice, what they're learning about and what they're thinking about. So.
There's another question about using AI and contributing to promoting inclusivity and diversity in education.
Definitely. So that's a big area that we're writing and researching about, and my doctorate is about that as well. So what we're doing in our research, we're finding that it's AI is democratizing knowledge and also democratizing kind of things that you can do with AI. So if you wanted to be, so it could become like, if you were going to make it less inclusive, that would be like, you didn't have access to this. It was only being done by certain countries or certain sets of people. But what we're finding as opposite is it's democratizing the way that you can do works and tasks and the way that you can include things in other languages and other cultures. So at Eduvators, we're having many modules about DEI, or DEIA as we call it here, and how that changes learning and training and working for everybody. And I think it's going to flip things around for a lot of countries. That the countries I've worked in that are adopting this faster are the ones that are kind of the lower economic countries. And why? Because now you can be in a place like maybe South Africa and build all these kinds of things that you couldn't do before. as long as the internet is working. And one of the other ones is, yes, all languages are equal in ChatGPT now, finally. So like in the West Indies, where they're geographically diverse, they're disconnected on all these islands, but they can work. And so education's been hard and language has been hard, but now they can work together with these tools and do things from all different places. So it's a big change and opportunity for other countries. So I think that eventually we're going to see some big changes. I mean, I know here our schools are changing already pretty quickly, and people are questioning the value of $100,000 US for a university education. Load shedding. That's exactly right. I gotta say, I've had many meetings with people in their car in South Africa. I understand load shedding. So it's the power shuffling there. So, but you'll see big institutions, people expect, not people my age, but younger people expect information faster, and they get bored. So religious institutions, educational institutions, big places where they expect it faster, less expensive, are going to be changing around this. And I don't think we know how to change it yet, but it's really important to start understanding that, because those, as they change, we don't want to be one of the places that close. And places are closing. We are closing schools here where I live already this year. And, there's, it's around population, but it's also around cost and, what people need and how many people are going to be going to school. So these are really critical things. And it's a difficult time, I think, for education. And I also think that the divide between what we understand as educators and what students understand is widening right now. And so we want to bring that, if we want to have, important, be in charge of education, be delivering direct education, we have to understand the newest tools to do it. And it's not technology tools. These are just tools now that I consider this like the typewriter. If you don't understand how to type, you can't use computers. Now you need to know how to use words to program, and so that you can have people get information at the speed that they're used to outside of school. All right, did I miss anything here?
Thank you. No, I think you answered all the questions in the chat. Are there any other questions or comments?
If not, I can show a few things that I use.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Google window up. Yeah. So it should be here. Okay. Let's have some fun for a minute. So this is an avatar I created yesterday, and these are free applications. So I'm trying to understand, like, if you're going to learn how to curate art or learn about art, this is like a new way. So this is a new tool. So normally I would teach about art and teach about the artist, but now I can go in, have students go in, and they can curate this, and then they can talk about these different pieces of art. And these worlds are just, people are building them, and you can just go in them as a student or teacher, and I can go find all of a certain artist and then talk about it. Or you can make art and put it in these museums. You can walk around. Pretty phenomenal. So I'm just sitting here. You can go into any world in this Viber. So that's one that I really like. I am super blown away by ThingLink. So I can go into there. I can import any of my media, 2D, 3D, whatever, and go learn about stuff. So, and once I click on it, it works in my headsets. It works on my phone. It works on my iPad. It works on my Google Chromebook. It works on my computer. So all you do is double click anywhere, and you can create content in there and then play it back. It could be guides, manuals, videos, your own writings. So I think that's it's so easy that I just didn't know it changed from 2D to 3D. So I'm just super blown away by how easy this is and how well it works on every device. And you can even preview it, like what it's going to look like on different devices. So that's a main one now that I'm going to be using, and I can integrate it in with any LMS. It's just like super universal, but the main thing is it's accessible. So this works with screen readers, and I've had a lot of visually impaired students in my digital media career. So they can go and still learn all of the same stuff right here. So ThingLink has been built by educators to be, and I'm not a member of ThingLink or anything, but they are a partner of educators, but just the way they did accessibility is they just nailed it. So like I said, I had no idea that how good it was now. And you just, so when I put on my goggles, I see all the same stuff. I don't have to take my goggles off. I can click on it and then get everything. I can do a tour or make an escape room. So that's one that I'm using a lot. Sora, you might have seen. I'm going to actually be creating a series called about a little airplane, little jumbo jet, and goes and does little things for kids, because you can create your own movies with prompts. So you make like little 5 to 15-second cuts, and that's the normal cut size anyways, and I mean, these are completely AI generated, so you can do it. This is an older Western, just ridiculous. This one, they said it does things that we didn't know were possible, like creating that dirt coming off of this road. So this is something this is a museum. Again, so this is brand new. It's coming out, probably rolling out over the next couple of months. That's one that I'll be in. This is one I mentioned, Ready Player Me. I build avatars for different learning purposes, and I have students do that to use in these other apps. This is the repository library of the world at the moment, Sketchfab, which is moving to Fab. But for example, I can have people walk through a hotel, and that they can, once you download this in any of these apps, it could go into ThingLink or Eon or Viverse or anything you have, all of these things, so you can build your own world. Or you can go on, if you're a designer, you can go build these yourself. But if you're not, you can go grab all these things and just put them in your world. So I use this a lot for teaching and students creating things, so they can do architecture, look at a building, put it in a space, and then explain why, what they would change. I mean, so many things, but all subjects are in here. It's a massive, there's like 8 million models or 9 million now in there. Another one I use that I mentioned, one of my favorites, is Blockade Labs. This is my free, so I can be like, make a world that looks like University of East. I have no idea what it's going to do. So I did this the other day, and I said, make a world that looks like Dune, and I brought it into ThingLink. Let's see, the realistic one. Realism. And ThingLink did all of the, let's see, it's generated, did all of the annotations for me. Like, it just does that now. So let's see so once you make these worlds, you can put them into ThingLink, Eon, Viverse, or anything, and then Unreal Engine, Unity, and you can have different rooms created from whatever you think of. You can make it very detailed, like make a lab with all the stuff in it. So it made a university here. Or sometimes, I'll do a dystopian sci-fi world in Los Angeles. I've made like a biology lab, and I tell it like all the equipment it's going to be in there. And then once you put it in to ThingLink, it'll label everything. Here's the beakers, here's the station, here's the hood, safety hood, etc. So, and these can be exported as 360 images that you can move around, or they can be exported as a 3D model. So there's a download thing there. So pretty incredible. And then you can put, as a 3D model, you can put other objects inside of there. So here's this world that I just created. Amazing. So that's one that I use a lot. And then talked about that. Firefly. This one, it works differently, which is really interesting. So I can do, let's see, so I can do text to image. And so what it does is it gives you some information. See if I can find there we go, down there. So, okay. Frise, drinking a chocolate shake. Generate that. So what it does is on the right side, instead of having to memorize commands, it already gives it to you. So you can pick the aspect ratio. Do you want it wide or square, whatever? And the style, do you want like a poster or digital art or different colors? So it already gives you these settings. So I think this is kind of the easiest to use, because without knowing all or memorizing or whatever, you can go through the options. And Firefly 2 just came out. I just downloaded it yesterday, so you can see what it generated there really quickly. And then you can regenerate or whatever, or like change aspect ratio and change things about it and just regenerate. So maybe I don't want a photo, maybe I want some art in a different aspect ratio, and it'll generate that. So that's an easy one to use. This is free. There's more options in it. If you're an Adobe subscriber, gives you more things. I think it's my free account. I'm not sure. So now I made like a picture that's got a little bit different tone to it. So I know we're out of time, so let me just stop sharing, and I can go on and on all day. But so the way to learn about them is, somebody like Eduvators or another place where it kind of aggregates things, puts them in categories, explains them, and then gives you projects around those. That's what I wanted to end. So with that, I wanted to thank everybody for being here. I hope that was helpful. I'm here all the time, so Melissa and Jamie know how to reach me, and I'm really happy to help. Hopefully be a longtime colleague of all of you at East London and all over the UK. So thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you for your session. Lots of positive comments here. We have people who already signed up for Eduvator, so they'll get updates and so on. And as I mentioned, the session is being recorded, so we'll be uploading it onto YouTube probably within a week. We have to do some editing, and then we'll share the link with you as well.
Fantastic.
So thank you.
Right, and this will require an update every few months, so hopefully I'll be back.
Yeah.
Next time with videos.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks. Bye.